The courtroom was buzzing. Lawyers whispered, papers shuffled, and the judge adjusted his glasses, ready to begin. In the middle of the room, a young black woman sat quietly at the counsel's table. She wasn't wearing an expensive suit or carrying flashy folders, just calm confidence. But then, a senior lawyer walked in, smirked at her, and said loud enough for everyone to hear. "Sweetheart, this isn't the spectators' bench. Attorneys sit up front." The room chuckled. Everyone assumed she was someone's assistant, maybe a paralegal, maybe even just a clerk who had walked into the wrong place. They didn't know who she really was. Because in just a few minutes, she was about to reveal an identity that would turn the entire courtroom upside down. Her name was Danielle Carter. From the outside, she looked like any other attorney starting her career, but her story was far from ordinary. She had grown up in a small southern town, where her mother cleaned houses and her father worked long shifts at a factory. Danielle was the first in her family to go to college. She studied late into the night, often with nothing but determination and black coffee keeping her awake. Law school hadn't been easy. Professors questioned whether she belonged, classmates whispered when she spoke too confidently, and internships often stuck her in the corner while others got real cases. Still, Danielle pushed forward. She had one goal, to make sure that justice didn't belong only to the privileged, but also to people who looked like her, who came from where she came from. That's why standing in that courtroom that day meant more than just another case. This wasn't just about winning arguments or citing precedents. This was about respect. And yet, here she was, being dismissed and mocked, not for her ability, not for her arguments, but for her skin color and for being a black woman in a space they thought didn't belong to her.
If you believe in justice, hit like, subscribe, and tap the bell so you never miss a story that matters.
What no one realized, not even the smirking lawyer, was that Danielle wasn't just an attorney. She was the Attorney General of the state, the highest legal officer in the entire courtroom. But she wasn't ready to reveal that just yet. She wanted to see how far their prejudice would go, before she turned it back on them. The courtroom air thickened with unease. The male lawyer, seated at the opposing table, smirked each time Lena spoke. He would interrupt her mid-sentence, object without basis, and even chuckle under his breath as though her presence there was nothing more than a joke. "Your Honor, I can't take this, Assistant seriously," he scoffed, glancing at her with an arrogance that silenced the room. Gasps fluttered through the gallery. Lena's hands tightened around her pen, but her face remained calm, collected, though inside, the sting of disrespect burned deeper with every word. She wasn't just fighting a case, she was fighting centuries of assumptions, of being underestimated because of who she was. The judge, hesitant, seemed to allow the disrespect to fester, almost as though he, too, questioned her authority. The jury shifted uncomfortably, caught between the man's confidence and Lena's quiet strength. And yet, Lena refused to fold. She spoke with clarity, her arguments razor-sharp, her documents meticulously prepared. Each time she stood, her voice carried authority that contradicted the dismissive laughter aimed her way. Still, the lawyer leaned back, arms crossed, eyes glinting with mockery, certain he held the upper hand. The injustice was clear. This wasn't just a legal battle, it was a test of dignity. And the longer it went on, the more the tension in that courtroom grew, everyone waiting to see whether Lena would crumble, or rise. The lawyer leaned back, smirking, his voice dripping with arrogance. "Your Honor, with all due respect, I don't even know why she is standing here. Clearly, she's not familiar with courtroom protocol." A few people in the gallery chuckled. The sound echoed like little daggers through the room. The bailiff shifted uncomfortably, while another lawyer at the back shook his head, whispering something to his colleague. The woman, calm but visibly stung, clutched her notes tighter. She had spent her entire life fighting for equality, and yet, even here, in a place meant to uphold justice, she was being belittled not for her knowledge, but for her presence. The opposing lawyer pressed on, clearly enjoying the moment. Maybe she should sit down and watch how real lawyers work, instead of interrupting serious proceedings. More laughter broke out. One juror raised an eyebrow, another sighed. The judge's gavel tapped lightly, not to silence the lawyer, but as if signaling impatience with her. It wasn't just disrespect anymore, it was open humiliation. The courtroom wasn't just doubting her, they were dismissing her entire existence. She took a slow breath. Her silence wasn't weakness. It was calculation. Because she knew something no one else in that room had even considered, something that would flip the entire script in an instant. The courtroom went silent for a beat after his latest insult. Her eyes narrowed, but her voice stayed calm, steady, commanding. She rose to her feet, walked slowly to the front, and placed her badge on the desk for everyone to see. Then, with a quiet firmness that cut through the room like a blade, she said, "Perhaps you'll address me properly now. Attorney General Williams." The judge's jaw dropped. The lawyer froze mid-sentence. And the packed courtroom erupted in stunned whispers. The woman they had dismissed had just revealed she was the highest legal authority in the entire state. The lawyer's face flushed pale as the weight of his mistake hit him. The same courtroom that had once laughed at her now stood in absolute silence, waiting for her next words. Attorney General Williams looked directly at him, not with anger, but with a calm authority that spoke louder than rage ever could. "This isn't just about me," she said firmly. "It's about every woman who's been underestimated. Every black professional who's been dismissed. Every voice silenced before being heard." The judge lowered his head in shame. The jury shifted uncomfortably, realizing their bias had been laid bare. And the lawyer who once belittled her could barely meet her eyes. But Attorney General Williams didn't gloat. She simply stood tall, her presence now undeniable. In that moment, the courtroom wasn't just witnessing justice for one case, it was witnessing a powerful reminder. Respect isn't given because of who someone appears to be. It's owed because of who they are. And as she turned back to her seat, the truth lingered in the air, heavy, unforgettable. The woman they mocked had become the lesson they'd never forget.